I'm Kevin Busque. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Guideline. The mistake I made and how I screwed this up is I didn't embrace sales-led growth.
Welcome back to How I Screwed This Up, where founders share the biggest mistakes on the road to building a company and the hard-won lessons that followed. I'm Sarah Hallam, I'm your host, and I run startup content here at Rippling. For this episode, I'm joined by Kevin Busque, the former co-founder of TaskRabbit and the current founder and CEO of Guideline, the 401k platform serving over 60,000 small businesses. In an industry dominated by legacy giants like Fidelity and ADP, Kevin built a tech-first product that customers have loved from day one. For 6 years, 60 to 70% of deals closed without anyone talking to a salesperson. But here's the twist. That same PLG motion that was Guideline's success story also became Kevin's biggest blind spot. When analyzing competitor data in Salesforce, Kevin discovered they were being sold around by inferior products with superior sales teams. It led to a realization that Guideline could have doubled in size if he would have embraced sales-led growth earlier. In today's episode, Kevin shares why product market fit can sometimes be a trap and why the best product doesn't always win. Let's dive in.
Guideline is really meant to bridge the access gap for 401k savings in the United States. I started under the impression that this industry was largely solved. It has been around for 45 years, 50 years at this point. In my previous experience at my other startup, in searching for a 401k, I just realized that the offerings that were in the market were pretty terrible, pretty antiquated, run by, legacy financial institutions, and they really weren't, meeting where participants needed to be when onboarding at a company. And there was a large opportunity to make a difference there. And kind of as an engineer, I saw this problem and I thought maybe I could set out to accomplish, bringing this benefit to every size company in the country. I really wanted to build something that, resonated with me, and I could bring my passion of software and technology solutions to solving that problem. I don't know if we were lucky or smart or a little bit of both, but as soon as we hit the market with our product, it really started to resonate with the market. We launched exclusively with Gusto in late 2016, and that really started, the whole ball rolling and really got us sucked into our go-to-market motion, which was very much partner-led. And I really believed at that time, probably 2016 through 2022-ish, 2021, that 401k was a benefit that was bought. It wasn't sold. And I really believed that. And I just really, my bias was to deliver the best product possible and really focus on the participant outcomes and their experience in both onboarding and building trust in our investment philosophy, etc. And all of that was true. And our go-to-market was quite beautiful. It was low cost, meaning our CAC was incredibly low. Our lifetime value was incredibly high. So that was really important to us. And we really, embraced that. And we thought, this is great. We had no competitors. We were kind of owning the small business market from that point forward. When I started Guideline, I always felt that this was just a product that everybody wanted and everybody could have. And that wasn't really the case at all. So for us, being product-led as a team was incredibly important. And that was my vision. That was my background. That was my bias. I had never worked in a company with any sort of sales process at all, and I didn't know anything about it. So for me, just my tunnel vision was this was the only avenue to success, was to build the best product possible, and it would fly off the shelves, right? So for us, it was very much like build it and they will come. When it started and how well we were positioned in the market from a product perspective really reassured what we were doing as the right thing. There was a period at Guideline when 60 to 70% of all the plans that were sold or bought never talked to a salesperson. And that was an incredible statistic, right? When you look at a company like an ADP or a Paychex, they're boots on the ground. They're selling this, they're cross-selling it with payroll. Guideline didn't do that. We didn't have a sales team. We had, probably 5 to 10 people answering questions in a consultative fashion. And that was just something that, from the output, from the feedback in the marketplace, from the board's perspective, it was just a beautiful thing. And there was no reason to change it. as you grow and growth becomes more difficult, you have to reevaluate how you keep up growth. Everybody can grow on small numbers, right? Like that's really easy to do. That's just how math works. But as you reach scale, it's really important to see what's next. Guideline and my problem and how I screwed this up was really like, I did that way too late. I took my time, I embraced PLG. I just thought I could keep growing this animal the best way I knew how, and that was with superior product. And we do have superior product, in my opinion. And, in the end, it just becomes extremely hard to keep up high growth as a VC-backed company. You need to be able to do that. You need to be able to show that growth. You need to be able to show continued growth for years and years and years. And that becomes more and more difficult. So of course you have to, at some point, reevaluate what you're doing if you can't hit those numbers easily. And that's what we did. At some point, we transitioned from our previous CRM sales tool. I forget what it was at this point, kind of irrelevant, but we switched into Salesforce and we started capturing data on why we lost a deal. And previous to this moment in time for a Guideline, the reason that we lost or didn't win, I would say people didn't sign up, was really non-consumption. And what I mean by non-consumption was just we weren't at the right time for that small business in their trajectory. And that was really important, and that was okay, right? Like, we never wanted to sell something that somebody didn't need, that we weren't solving a problem. And that was really important to me. You're running a small business, obviously, 401k and retirement benefits isn't the biggest thing on your mind all the time. It's in fact the second most requested benefit next to healthcare. And I totally understand that. But this moment in time, and I'm looking in Salesforce and I get my login for the first time, and it was a big undertaking to switch over to Salesforce. And I'm looking at closed loss reasons. And that was something that we hadn't captured before. And there was competitors starting to pop up. And I was really trying to understand this. And I knew those products. We had a way better product than all of them. We had way better pricing. You still couldn't compete with Guideline on pricing, and still today you can't really compete with Guideline on pricing. And we were losing deals, to bigger companies, which was super interesting to me. And I'm trying to understand this. And these are like highly educated people, right? These are HR leaders, these are CFOs, these are finance people, VPs of finance, etc. So they understand the game. They understand asset-based fees. They understand the point of this benefit is to have a successful retirement for the people saving. And I really couldn't understand it. And I was like, we have the best product in the world here, or in the US, according to at least me. And I think that's true. Why are we losing? And I was starting to dig into this, and the real aha moment was at that point, and we started implementing Gong. And Gong was a tool that you can use to record sales calls. And I'm starting to understand what's happening. And really, we're being sold around. We're being outsold. So no longer is this consultative motion on what our product is, or we would generally, what this product is, how we deliver our solution, why we deliver it, why we're focused, why we look the way that we look. All of that didn't matter because we never got to the point where we could do a product demo. So I built this mousetrap, or Guideline built this mousetrap together, and we didn't get a chance. We didn't even get in the mix to show them what we had built or sell what the difference was. And we were being outsold. People were closing deals before we even got to them. So time to lead became incredibly important. Time to first touch became incredibly important. None of these things we had ever focused on, ever, at Guideline. And that was my moment. And I realized, 401k is a complex product for people that don't fully understand it. And it can be sold. It can be manipulated. You can put things in front of people that are making decisions that aren't apples to apples. And that's tricky. If we had embraced sales-led growth earlier in Guideline's history, there's no doubt in my mind that we would be double the size that we are now. And I truly mean that. And I look back at all the data that I've seen with win rates, time to lead, all of those types of things, missed opportunities, closed, lost data. There's no doubt in my mind we could be double the size. I left the door open, so to speak, for competitors to sell around and sell an inferior product. And that is something I truly regret. I think it is true that being kind of tunnel visioned on just product is a mistake. Absolutely. It's a mistake that you can recover from. If you had PLG and you got sucked into that vortex and you had product market fit, not just PLG, but you truly had product market fit, you feel that every day. There are companies that sign up that are big name companies and a salesperson never talked to them. And that is truly like product market fit. And you can get sucked down that hole really, really quickly. But it's really about how do you see your blind spots? Having product-led growth and product market fit isn't a bad thing. That's an amazing thing. But what else could you be doing? What else are you not seeing? That is really important to be able to do. And that is something I didn't do because I was so stubborn saying that, hey, I'm just going to build the best product. Now, the best product is definitely going to win, in my opinion, if you have a level playing field in your sales motion. If you don't have it and it's a gap, then you're probably not going to win. There's been many times in history that the best product didn't win, like Betamax versus VHS. That's probably way too old for this audience, but that's the thing, right? Betamax was far superior from a technical perspective, better picture, easier, blah, blah, blah. But VHS won. Marketing. It's all marketing. It's like distribution and marketing. So that was really important for me to kind of understand, but it took a long time, and it was just purely my stubbornness and my bias towards building the best product. As soon as we started realizing that, we were being sold against and our product on its own, wasn't enough to close its deal, we really started to reevaluate and look around and see, what other company may have gone through something similar to this. It's really difficult to find those examples, but it's really easy to find great product companies that also have sales teams. One of those examples would be Shopify. That's a great example. There's a lot of companies that are purely sales-led growth that sell, an inferior product, like some of the old voice over IP companies like Ring, those types of things were just sales machines, right? And they sold an inferior product. So you start piecing all this together, and that is just something that you navigate and say okay, what are we missing? What are our gaps? Luckily for me, on my board, I have some great board members who were in sales organizations, even early Google, and how they scaled was really helpful. Let's identify, let's pattern match on who could come in and be a good leader for Guideline and really kind of get our ball rolling, so to speak, on the sales side. Kind of stop the bleeding, I would say, early. And obviously, I couldn't hire for this role. I've never interviewed a salesperson in my entire life. So that was, something that I had to rely on my board. I had to rely on my talent team. I had to rely on friends who were salespeople to help us interview and go through this process. So really hire the right talent, fill the gaps that you might have in kind of your point of view around the business, identify those as early as possible. I think where it was tricky for us is in the sales process becomes a different sales culture. You hire different types of people that aren't software engineers, that aren't product people, that aren't technologists. And that can be disruptive to a company, especially a software company like Guideline, where we've been so focused on product for so long. We probably had 250, 300 people at this point in and around largely doing software or partnerships. And now we're going to inject sales folks into the mix. Those sales folks are going to have different demands on the company as a whole, not just on the culture. We need to come up with a sales philosophy. We need to come up with a commission structure. Sales comp is a different animal. Everybody was on salary at Guideline. We didn't have commissions. So that was really important for us to just start to understand, and it took a really long time. It probably took 3 years longer than it needed to, but we're there now, which is great. But you have to identify those gaps early. You have to make edits. You have to see what's working, what's not working. Even on your product, pricing needs to change if you're paying commissions, and you need to keep your gross margin up, but you also need to enable high growth and sales-led growth. All of those things you just have to embrace, and it's going to be a change on the company. We have metrics and we look at them daily on, time to first lead, win rates, close lost reasons, all of those types of things has just changed the culture. We have a CEO council where we talk about these things now. We hadn't talked about sales for the first 6 years of Guideline. And that was just, all of this is brand new. It's a big change. The board is involved in it. I feel really good about where we are now as a well-rounded company rather than just, being solely focused on product. And obviously we're never going to give up on product-led growth because we're going to continue to innovate. We are a software company, we're a technology company. We're going to solve this problem with technology. Solving it with sales solves our growth problem. It doesn't solve the industry problem we set out to fix. So that's been really important to us. There's a lot of these types of things that you don't think about. It's like, oh, it's so easy, just build a sales team. Like anybody can do that. Get a sales leader, get some sales folks, start selling some stuff. It's not really how it happens. You have to integrate them into a software company. There's feedback loops, there's comp structures, there's bonus structures, there's all sorts of different things that now are changed for everybody in the company. And that's really difficult to embrace. And I think now looking at the data and being a data-driven company, time to lead is incredibly good. That's increased, it's more than doubled our win rates. Looking back at even Q1, this year, we're at 110% of board plan, which is incredible. And we haven't seen that level in probably 2 or 3 years. And that's really important to understand. Guideline's always been up and to the right, and we will continue to be that way just from our product, and that is our steady state. But now we have this multiplier that is sales-led growth that we've never had. And it's an amazing experience. For me, hiring a leader, hiring a sales leader, hiring somebody that's done this before, understands comp structures, understands sales motivations, understands how to speak to these types of folks and motivate them and incentivize them to sell a product that is the best in class is really just kind of amazing for me to watch, because I don't feel like it's a big lift for me. It was a big lift to change the company to incorporate these folks, but now it's just kind of amazing. I almost feel like it's free money because it works so well. I just wish in hindsight I had done it 5 years earlier. Retrospectively, this lesson in particular has really made me kind of look within in regards to what am I missing? My focus is so technical, so much on product, so much on mission. What else, look around, what else am I missing? And that is really important to understand. And I think in hindsight, a strength, but also a weakness from Guideline when we first started was we had 2 technical folks and a product person as our founders. It's, me, Mike, and Caps. And that's great when you're building product. But once you've built product, you need to look around and see what you're missing. And what we were missing was anybody in a go-to-market motion outside of buying software on a website. Had we had seen that earlier, I think we would have less competitors currently. I would think we have less people that, follow in our footsteps. I think we'd probably be roughly double the size. And that's really look around, see what you're missing, fill the gaps in your organization, whether it be, a CFO, product person, if you're largely sales led, or sales. In our case, sales leadership was the thing that we missed the most.